Afghanistan, a country with a complex and turbulent history, has been at the center of global political and social discussions for decades. The role of Afghan women in these transformations has been both significant and controversial. Among the international efforts, Among the international efforts to engage with and support Afghan women were the female engagement teams FETs, specialized military units tasked with building relationships and understanding the challenges faced by women in Afghan society. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with Ryan Donoho, a former member of an FET, about her experiences in Afghanistan, the impact of these missions, and her thoughts on the current situation of Afghan women. With a deep background in military operations and advocacy, she now leads Dolphin 6, a platform dedicated to amplifying the voices of women in high risk environments. Through this conversation, we aim to gain a deeper understanding of the realities Afghan women face during international military presence, the effectiveness of such initiatives, and what the future may hold for them. Hello, dear audience, and welcome back to one another episode of Asrikabel Media. And today we have the opportunity to talk with Ms. Ryan Donoho. Ms. Ryan Donoho, welcome to our program, and it's such a great opportunity to have you in our program. So please tell about yourself, about your business, about your actually activities for us and also for our audience.
Manana, assalamu alaikum, Nazanin. Thank you so much for having me and for hosting me. It's a pleasure to join you today. And my name is Ryan Donoho. I was in the Marine Corps, the United States Marine Corps, on a female engagement team, which was a new concept in 2010. Our mission really was to engage the other half of the population, which were women and children. Um, Tactical questioning was at the front of our mission, but we also wanted to engage and get to know the women and children, what are some needs locally. And it was an adventure of a lifetime, a thrill of a lifetime. And, I grew a deep affection for the country of Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan. I would say that, my experience in the Marine Corps in Afghanistan is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And it's a part of my mission with Dolphin 6 to capture the oral histories of women who were on a term that I've coined, special female teams. So that includes the Lioness program, the female engagement team, which is the team that I was on, the Army's cultural support teams, which also had a shared mission, as well as the Afghan female tactical platoon. So the Afghan female tactical platoon is a group of women who were Army ANA or Afghan National Army soldiers who, they really they performed at a high level and were critical to the mission in Afghanistan. So since the withdrawal, a lot of them have arrived and resettled in the United States. And, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to develop some friendships and some real bonds with the women who were on that team. And I admire them so much. So it's a blessing in my life to be able to work with them. And Dolpheus is a name that I actually got on an engagement in Afghanistan where the women and the children did my makeup, actually. So on leaving the engagement, another young Marine, I was a young Marine at the time, I turned 21 in Afghanistan, but another young Marine asked if I wanted to take my makeup off before we patrolled back to the patrol base. And, I said, no, I'm good. So he responded very sarcastically, okay, dollface. And, it stuck in that moment. And I think captures the essence of special female teams. And, it's a fun name and logo as well. So I enjoy working with it, but it really has its origins with a very special engagement that I had in Afghanistan where, being from Los Angeles, I grew up with makeup. My mom did hair and makeup in the industry, like in Hollywood, in the movie industry. And to go to Afghanistan at such a young age with, a lot of responsibility, what I ended up having in common with the girls and the women and the children in Afghanistan was makeup. So I find makeup to be really special in a way for for us and for women to connect. So that's a little bit about me and some of the story about Dollface and how that started.
Yes, thank you so much, dear Ryan. It was really nice. So please tell me about during your mission in Afghanistan as part of the female engagement team, what were the biggest challenges that you faced in Afghanistan?
Well, that is quite a good question. In 2010, uh, there was, there was a war in Afghanistan, and Americans were there. I was one of them. I was very young. I was 20 when I arrived, and I turned 21 in Afghanistan. I feel like our training really prepared us for the mission and to operate, but there was still, as a young woman, there was still a lot of fear that I had. So I would say fear, honestly, was the biggest challenge. And you really face that head on. Fear, I think, was the biggest challenge. And let me think. We were received well for the most part from our counterparts. Being a new program, with women in a male-dominated environment, there are challenges that come with that. But the mission was really front of mind, and I think we were recognized as assets in engaging the women and the children, which provided a lot of information that would actually mitigate future insurgencies. So I think once that was understood by our male counterparts, we were accepted, and there was a camaraderie that was built. So, as a young woman, I think fear is actually what was first, is like the biggest challenge. There are other challenges that come with being a female in that environment, but nothing that we weren't able to overcome. So.
Yeah, actually, I really understand because I lived in Afghanistan for 20 years. That I'm 21. It's the first year that I'm in Pakistan. Actually, I spent my 20 years of my life in Afghanistan, and I do really understand the environment of Afghanistan and how it is actually, it's strange somehow that a woman like you who lives in a democratic country like America, in a developed country, and when she came for the first time in an environment like Afghanistan, that it's no guarantee about security, about anything. So it somehow makes us to feel fear, actually. And I do really understand you about that. So, in your opinion, how effective was the U.S. military's approach in engaging with Afghan women? How effective was that?
I love that question because I think that the strategy was very effective. For example, there is an Afghan female tactical platoon member who moved from another country where she was not able to go to school. She existed as an Afghan refugee in another country that I won't name just for security reasons. For her to have moved to Afghanistan in 2010 in order to go to school, I think is a big demonstration that what we were doing in a counterinsurgency format, essentially trying to instill a democracy in Afghanistan. I think that it was effective, and I think that utilizing women was critical to how effective we were. I also would like to mention that I believe that the design and implementation of the Afghan female tactical platoon is just another demonstration at how effective we were to the mission in Afghanistan, and really ultimately giving women an opportunity in Afghanistan to go to school, to work, and then to operate on a really elite team with American tier one operators to protect their countrymen, to facilitate and foster a democratic government in their own country. I think what we did was really effective.
Yes, surely, because the before Republic government in Afghanistan, most of the women, or we can say all of the women, were somehow spending their lives in a way that they accepted those traditions and they accepted those all those restrictions that they were handling, but after that, during Republic government, because foreign people were coming in our country, and education, feeling female engagement, so these kind of programs, somehow impacted the women in a way that they have to think, change their mindset. They have to somehow know about their freedoms. They have to know more about their rights, that what are they actually, and what roles they can do in their government. And after during these 20 years of Republic government, actually, the women became so wiser, their wisdom increased. And now, however, the restrictions are nowadays so much on women in Afghanistan. They cannot go to school, they cannot go to university, but despite of that, I know most of the women, especially girls, are continuing their education online, because they know the importance of education, and they know about the importance of their lives, and they think that this situation is temporary, and they not temporary, so they will pass these days, and one day they will just have a better participant. They will be a better participant in their government, actually. So we can say your programs, especially female engagement, were really effective, and we cannot ignore that. So please tell me
Absolutely.
about, yes, please tell me about this. That do you have a specific story or experience with an Afghan woman that has stayed with you over the years or impacted you so much?
Yes, absolutely. I might add to your statement there that some of the female tactical platoon members have stated that while working for the army, while working for the Afghan National Army, and working with the Afghan female tactical platoon, and working with their brothers in arms, in the American side, that they felt the most free they've ever felt by doing that, which I just find so inspiring, because they did really, I mean, some of their family members didn't really know really what they were doing, even though they had to get approval from like the male, the senior male member of the household, whether that was a father, uncle, brother. Um, they really braved the unknown by doing what they were doing. So I have so much admiration for how fearless they were and how courageous they were in being on that special program. So I totally agree with you, and I think education is a huge factor. I saw your interview with Mr. Timothy Stevens, um, which was an incredible interview, Nazanin. Well done. But he said something that I found really to be true, in a magnanimous way, which is that education is so critical to, the women who are having children. If they're educated, they might be able to prevent the route that might lead them towards, away from democracy or away from education. And, I think that that's really important. So I'm super grateful for what he has done with Flowers for the Future, and, an incredible organization that has created so many opportunities for women and girls in Afghanistan. But speaking to a an interaction that I had with a woman that has stuck with me through the years, is that story that I told you about where the women and children did my makeup. You know, I mean, I think about it every single day. I think about it all day, every single day. And I'll never forget how I felt when with how, I mean, hospitality is really something that is special in Afghanistan. Very hospitable people who, want to treat their guests, the best. And, we had tea, we had chai, and they had little candies. They made bread for us. They made a whole meal for us. And we exchanged jewelry, and they did my makeup. And, one of the girls took the necklace off of her neck and gave it to me. And I took a bracelet, a military bracelet that's made with 550 cord. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There might be some people who watch this who are. But it's a military bracelet made with 550 cord. So we exchanged jewelry in that moment. And it's an experience of a lifetime that I'll never forget. And it's on my heart forever. So everybody was just so happy. They were so happy we were in their home. They really enjoyed our company. They wanted to feed us. They wanted us to feel happy. And, you realize in a moment like that, like how much you have in common with people that you don't know, like on the other side of the world. And in what was considered a dangerous situation, the amount of joy that they had and the amount of um, hospitality that they shared with me and my teammate is just, it's really memorable and it'll stay with me forever. So pretty much the engagement where I got the call sign Dollface is the engagement that'll stay with me for the rest of my life with those women and those girls.
Yes, actually, the women in Afghanistan, as you said, they are so hospitable and actually they are so kind. But the thing is, and as you mentioned, that despite of all those challenges that they are facing, um, about the restrictions, traditional restrictions that are available in Afghanistan, as you see nowadays, also the situation became so worse than the public government. They are so hospitable, they are so kind, and I wish that if they were educated, if the opportunities somehow become available for women to grow, as I think women in Afghanistan are really hero, and if they have opportunities they will shine, and actually they will make the Afghanistan a better place for people, including men.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, yes, the situation is in a way that they do not have opportunity. But despite of that, uh, their dare actually somehow their motivation is really somehow makes us to feel inspired, and actually, yeah, I'm proud of all Afghan women. And please tell me, do you believe missions like the female engagement teams created a lasting impact on Afghan women's lives?
I do. You know, if you think about, I was in Afghanistan 15 years ago in 2010. It is 15 years this year. And I think about the kids that were there, and they were all very young, maybe kindergarten age, 5 or 6, and then 10 or 12, a couple teenagers and women. But those little kids that are there are probably about the same age that you are now, or that I was when I went to Afghanistan. And I think about what an imprint that must have made on them, to meet somebody like myself or my teammate, or for the Afghan female tactical platoon members on a totally another level, because, this is their country, this is their home. For the little girls to meet Afghan female tactical platoon members, I mean, I find that to be really inspiring, and absolutely leaves a lasting impact on society and the young generations that are coming up. So, I think that part of the work that I'm doing is under the arc of a few historical theories, that I found really interesting in college, where I got my degree in history with an emphasis in the Middle East. But I focused on some themes that I think are relevant to discussion on war and democracy. Um, so there are a couple different theories that are at play there, but I personally think, and I don't know if it's because, I'm naturally altruistic or optimistic, but I think that democracy is contagious. That is something that I'm working on right now. And with the research that I'm doing, as far as interviewing the women who were on special female teams or the Afghan female tactical platoon or FET, I want to see what their consensus is on their experiences. So I have questions that I use as prompts to try and gather that information. But my life experience has really led me to believe that democracy must be contagious, because there's no way that women and girls in Afghanistan, and men too, for that matter, that they don't see the freedom, and that they don't, taste the freedom, that is not something that they're not going to pursue. I think once you get a taste of that freedom, it's almost in your nature to pursue that, at full force. So I think the female engagement team not only made an impression on young women and young girls, I think it made a really big impression on men in the areas that we were too. So we were working with men to build schools, for example. So not too dissimilar actually from what you and Mr. Stevens are doing. We were at the local level, and it's it's different now post-withdrawal, but in 2010, we were trying to build schools, and we were working with local mullahs to, convince them or see if, are you all interested in a school for girls? Do you want everybody to learn how to read and do math and things like that? It wasn't always totally a classroom setting, but even interaction with males, in the communities, I think their idea of what life could be like also changed. So I think that our teams made a huge impact on not only American culture, but Afghan culture. I think it made a huge difference.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Miss. Many Afghan people believe that the presence of foreign forces had both positive and negative effects. What is your perspective in this question?
I think that the positive effects outweigh the negative effects. I understand where people are coming from in having the supposition that it brought negative effects, but I think the positive effects outweigh the negative for the reasons that I shared, which is that, for someone in 2010 to move to Afghanistan so that they can go to school as a female, I just find that to be like a huge testament to what we were doing. And I think that that will have a really long-lasting effect on the people of Afghanistan and the country as a whole.
Yes, sure. Yes. Miss, have you stayed in touch with any Afghan women you worked with? If so, how do you see their situation today?
I have stayed in touch with a few. Post withdrawal, we had our interpreters on the female engagement team were from the United States. So, male interpreters were generally sourced locally in Afghanistan, but women, considering what the job situation was like in Afghanistan, we actually brought Afghan interpreters with us from the United States. And one in particular continued service after the female engagement team to the point where after the withdrawal, she was working at bases where we were receiving Afghans to help translate, in those situations. And teaching culture classes for the people who had newly arrived and, this is America now, this is how, just different things like that. So her service continued and she continues to work in the community. I haven't kept in touch with everyone. Our team has become a little bit decentralized, and part of what I'm doing is trying to bring everyone back together. With what I'm doing with Dollface, I just think it's important for us to have a reunion or for everybody to get on the same page and be together again. So my goal and part of my mission is to bring everybody together again because there was a lot of dispersion after deployment. But I have kept in touch with one in particular, but yes, our relationship continues, and I continue to meet amazing Afghan women now who work in advocacy space or her former FTP, and I enjoy that I can continue relationships like those.
Yes, yes, thank you. So, how about this? That did women in rural areas? Yes, did women in rural areas trust your team, or was there a sense of like fear and distrust toward foreign soldiers? How was there, for example, when they for the first time they saw you?
So I was only in rural areas. I was in Garmsir, and then I was in another area called Boldak, and they're all considered very rural. So my experience, it's not the same for everybody on our team. We had people who were in more hostile situations or more kinetic situations, like in Sangin in 2010 was a very difficult terrain for female engagement team. Their interactions were almost limited because there was battle. So where I was in a rural area and at the operational level that we were at, the women and the children, and even the males, like I said, they always seemed very pleased to see us. It was, you almost felt a little bit like a celebrity or something like that, so that was kind of fun. That was really fun. I think that we were received really well, and it was an excitement for us to be there. And I didn't get any sense. Well, okay, so there are a couple things happening here. The skepticism that or distrust that ever came with working with us had more to do with, I think, retribution from the Taliban. So, there were times where we had to communicate or meet people at night because people did not want to be seen with us or talking to us. And those women generally seemed to be distrusting. And I don't think it had as much to do with us as it had to do with their fear of Taliban retribution. So for the most part, I think we were kind of received almost like local celebrities, but there were situations where women themselves had fear because they were worried about being seen speaking with us.
Yes,
I hope that
so
answers your question.
is your memories and your experiences in Afghanistan, and you were in Buldak, I think, for some part, and Buldak is how can I say? I have a fear of being in Buldak whenever I hear the name of that, because for the last time that I went in Afghanistan about some months ago for my visa, then in Buldak when I arrived, however, I had my passport, however, I had my visa because I had not a mail guardian. Despite of
Mhm.
that I had a guardian, but I somehow signed a letter from Amr Maruf Institute in Kabul, and after that they allowed me to go without any mail guardian to Pakistan. But when I arrived in Buldak, unfortunately, the Taliban just arrested me and they put me in prison for about more than one whole day.
Wow. I'm so sorry that
And
happened to you. They're
and
very
after that, yes, and it was such a bad memory for me, especially, and that's why when for the first time in Buldak, I saw the Taliban people. They were just looking, and they were somehow, how can I say, reacted with me in a way that it was really for me somehow feeling so bad. And actually, it was not a good memory, and that's why I have a fear of being in Buldak actually.
mhm.
So.
My
Miss, based on your experiences,